This story happened 30 years ago to a dear friend of mine. In the heart of Kent run the North Downs. These ancient hills host deep valleys, long, lonely country lanes, and old, old forests. Plump and benevolent in the summer, dark, brooding, and mist-haunted in winter. One of these ancient valleys bears the apt name of Witchling, derived from the Anglo-Saxon place name Wicca Ingus, meaning place of the wise people. The opposite valley is named Worm's Hill and derived its name from Woden's Hill, Woden being a Saxon god. These names suggest, to me at least, a place of religious significance, the reasons for which are lost to the mists of time, or maybe not. Getting back on track to this story, my friend used to spend hours exploring and sketching this ancient valley. He and I loved the sweeping shape of these valleys, upon whose rolling slopes cling the remnants of what was once a vast forest, worthy of a slot in Tolkien's writings. The place feels old, powerful, and still retains an uneasy sense of wildness. I love walking here during a summer's evening, reveling in the scent carried on a warm breeze of wild honeysuckle, dusty corn, hot chalky earth, and deep cool forest, all of which are framed by spectacular summer sunset skies that thread gold and pink clouds through rustling trees and long forgotten bells. But in the dark winter days, the place becomes brooding, malevolent, and distinctly unwelcoming. All of this is what drew my friend with his sketch pad, oil paints, and camera. One evening in late summer, he decided to grab his kit and head into the valley to capture the evening fading into night and the changing symmetry of light and the shape of the land as dusk draws out the long shadows from the woods. Setting up his tripod and camera, he sat down to start sketching. The calm, still air was abruptly rendered by what my friend described as a long, lamentful scream. It wasn't a fox or deer. It sounded human, but oddly inhuman. Being a dowdy soul, my friend grabbed his camera and, zooming in, scanned the trees on the opposite hill, zooming in as he did to see if he could spot the culprit. It was then that a long, keening whistle sounded from the trees behind him, up the slope where he was perched. Here is a transcript from the phone call I had with my mate ahead of submitting this experience here for you all. Quote, "Honestly, mate, it was that whistle that scared me the most. It was just so loud and kind of triumphant. I could feel it was aimed at me. Sounds freaking mad, but I knew it was telling me to F off out of there. I didn't need telling twice. I packed up and turned to go. It was then that I saw some movement in a tree just off to my left. I turned and saw this long, spindly looking bloke crouched on a thick limb of the oak tree. I say bloke, but perhaps thing is more apt. It was really long and impossibly thin. Its legs and arms were really spindly. It was green and brown, kind of mottled like moss and bark. It had a long face and long hair, like down to its waist. I yelled out at it, partly in fear, partly in anger. I think I swore at it. He laughs here. It stood up on the bough, and it was so tall. My guess, at least 6'6" feet. It leapt from the bough, landed silently Mark that. It made no noise at all. It kind of sidewards rolled like an acrobat into the thick bracken again. Silently. I decided it was time to get to getting, so I tabbed out of there as fast as I could. That's it. That's the end of the transcript. My friend still tries to rationalize his experience, but so far hasn't come up with a logical explanation for what he heard and saw. He hasn't ventured back there, neither have I. I don't think I ever will. But I wonder if those ancient people who gave the valley its name knew what dwelt here and were wise enough to leave them be. It's interesting that the villages of Witchling and Worms Hill never spread into those valleys over the long centuries since settling here, preferring instead to place two churches above each valley and expanding in the opposite direction. I was in the woods behind my house in New Hampshire, wandering by the brook, when I stopped to crouch down by the water. It was a cool, sunny day, but shady under the trees, with dappled sunlight filtering down. As I was looking into the water at the edge of a small pool, a calm area of water that spread off one side of the creek, suddenly the quality of the light seemed to change. It's hard to describe, but the sunlight seemed to grow thicker, and the leaves seemed as though they were falling more slowly through this thickened air. At the same time, the sounds I had been hearing from the nearby road faded away, as did the sounds of the breeze, almost as if a bubble had been lowered over the area I was in. As I noticed this, I glanced up as I felt a presence, someone looking at me. Directly across the stream, approximately 20 feet away, standing on the other bank, was a little creature made all of leaves and sticks. It was standing perfectly still, but staring straight at me. It held a stick in one hand like a walking staff. I'd say it was no more than 2 feet tall, with a broad face and the likeness of an old man, but composed entirely of leaves and twigs. I had a distinct impression that the creature was not happy to be seen, nor was it happy about my presence in these woods. At the same time, I felt a certain acceptance, as if it was trying to convey that, although it was very unhappy with my kind, that it recognized that I was not one of the bad folk. I slowly inclined my head in a gesture of what I hoped was respect, when a sudden snap of a twig off to my left startled me, and I glanced sharply up. I looked back immediately to where the little leaf creature had been, but it was gone, as if it was never there. Suddenly, the sounds from the road and the breeze filtered back in, and the quality of the light returned to a normal afternoon. I never saw the little leaf creature again, but occasionally I would feel eyes watching me from those woods until finally I moved away. I found out later that the place I saw the leaf man had a reputation as a Native American living site where artifacts had been recovered. So this took place in a neighborhood park by my place. I go on multiple walks throughout the day when the weather permits. Some days I pack a bag and leave for the whole day until the sun goes down. On this particular day, I wanted a change of scenery. So instead of taking a left into the path I would normally go through the woods, I kept walking on the sidewalk that turned to the right. After walking down this sidewalk for some time, I discovered another beautiful park with trails, woods, and a swamp. I was really excited. I'm an imaginative person, and I felt like I had stumbled over some secret fairy tale park nobody knew about but me. I began exploring the area, just letting my imagination run wild. And soon I came to a bridge, a very pretty stone bridge that crossed over a river. Now, every fairy tale enthusiast knows that there are rules when it comes to crossing a bridge. If you don't follow those rules to the letter, you risk angering the keeper under the bridge, who could be a troll or a sorcerer or some other fairy tale creature. This is what I was thinking at the time. Just for fun, I fished around in my purse for something to give to the keeper under the bridge as an offering or a toll, so that it would allow me to cross the bridge safely. I found a single quarter at the bottom of my purse. I grabbed it and put it on the ledge. Then, out loud, I said, "I know this isn't much, but this is all I have. Please accept this offering in exchange for allowing me to safely make it to the other side." And with that, I started walking across the big stone bridge. When I got to the end of the bridge and was walking onto the gravel sidewalk, to my surprise, I heard 4 really distinctive, loud knocks, back to back. I froze. Butterflies rose in my stomach. The knocks sounded like they had come from under the bridge. As I said, I'm an imaginative person, and despite acting out this whole fairy tale, I never expected any kind of a response. I thanked the keeper of the bridge for making sure I was safe. I still couldn't believe that it had happened, and made my way home. It was a strange and magical experience. To this day, whenever I think about those knocks, I get butterflies in my stomach. Maybe it's possible. Fairy tales aren't just fairy tales. Many years ago, I was staying with some family friends who lived in Scotland. They showed me some photographs of their children playing in the Highlands. They were all ordinary photographs except for one, which showed a strange blob in the grass, not far from the kids. We all remarked on how strange this blob was. We couldn't figure out what it might be. We were so curious about it, we decided to get the photo blown up. And it shocked us all to discover that the blob was, in fact, a tiny girl with her thumb in her mouth, looking wistfully at the children. But when I looked closer at the photo, the little girl didn't look like a little girl anymore, but like an ancient hag staring hatefully at the children. We all saw this, so it wasn't just me seeing things. It was an eerie photo. The way this creature seemed to be both girl and hag at the same time. I'm well aware that there are strange things in the Scottish Highlands. I'm a Londoner, and I don't walk in the countryside on my own by choice. But on a holiday in Scotland visiting those same friends, I got too tired on a walk together and decided to double back and collect the car on my own. and drive it round to pick up my friends at a spot we had all agreed on. The walk was a few miles along cliff tops and inland a bit, with no one in sight. Soon I came to a small pool in a beautiful setting, with the sea in sight and rolling hills and mountains at the back. For some reason, it entered my head that I should try to contact the fairy folk. I said out loud that I knew they lived in these areas, and I knew they could have two natures, both kind and malevolent. I said I hoped to only contact their kind sides, but I would love a sign that they were there. As soon as I stopped talking, I heard a piping sound coming from the grass to the other side of the pool. I know it wasn't a bird. I may be a city person, but I know birdsong when I hear it. This sound definitely came from the ground and was a piping, as if from a musical instrument. But it sounded like small pipes, not bagpipes, but fluty type pipes. I say small because the sound was small, as if the instruments were small, not large like human size. They didn't sound as earthy as rush pipes. It seemed more like wood or metal. I said out loud in a rush, "Thank you very much. Best wishes to you." And I legged it for my life. I don't know any other way to explain this and the creature in my friend's photograph, other than fairies. I was camping near the moors in Essex with a group of friends one night. It was late and everyone was asleep when I had nature's call. I didn't want to walk the distance to the porta potties. 'Twas late, as I said, so instead I went directly behind my tent to the hedgerow. As I was prepared to, unleash, suddenly, right in front of me, when I looked down, there appeared silhouetted a small shape with hands on his hips. I could see it by the faint light coming through a large hole behind him in the hedgerow. I got the impression of someone very angry. This scared me, and needless to say, I could not do what I had intended to do. Slowly backing away, I apologized sincerely, believing I had been about to pee on one of the wee folk. I got back in my tent fast and spent the next couple of hours of the night casting protective circles and wards around me within my tent. In the morning, upon waking, I immediately searched the hedgerow for that large hole I had seen behind the creature, but discovered that there was absolutely no break or hole in the hedge anywhere near where I had been. This thing was humanoid, the size of a toddler, though I couldn't see anything but a silhouette framed by a strange, faint light. This felt like a fairy encounter. It didn't feel like an encounter with the dead or an angel or alien or anything like that. All I know when it comes to the fairies is don't mess with them. They will kick your butt if you do, and enjoy doing so. This happened in Utah. I was having some friends over for pizza that night and had just put the pizzas into the oven. My friends hadn't arrived yet and I was restless, so I decided to wash my windows while the pizza was cooking. It's only a one-bedroom apartment, ground floor, and I only have 3 windows. Started on the outside of the kitchen and living room windows. My friends arrived just as I was finishing up. At the same time, I noticed something strange. There were shapes, images on the inside of the window pane, some very elaborate in the areas where dirt and grime had gathered. I thought it was pretty strange, but thought maybe I was imagining things, so I didn't say anything to my friends right away. I took the pizza out and we all sat down in the living room to eat and chat. As we were doing so, I noticed a face had formed in a big mirror I had hanging between the kitchen and living room. It had a blue tint to it, and you could clearly see pointed ears and a beard. It was visible from anywhere in the room. I asked everybody there if they could see it too, and they all could. I got up to inspect it closer and noticed that if you looked at it, the mirror, at an angle, you could see elaborate images, almost like illustrations or paintings about the size of your hand, all the way down the side of the mirror. It's hard to explain this. Some were illustrations of women in long robes. One was of what looked like witches on brooms. I didn't understand where these images were coming from. It didn't make any sense. It was like this mirror was a window into a different space, a different reality. Then I looked down towards the bottom of the mirror, and I will never forget what I saw. Lying on his side, leaning on an elbow, taking up the full bottom of the mirror, was what I can only describe as a demon, except it wasn't threatening in any way. It had these big oval eyes and an oversized head, as your classic alien description. A lot like the cover of Whitley Strieber's book Communion from the 70s. But what will always stand out in my mind, and what I'll never forget, is the grin on his face. Half laughing, he seemed to say, "You found me!" It was like the other images and face had been there to distract us from finding him. Everybody there took turns walking right up to the mirror and looking down into it, and they all saw him too. One of the girls that was there that night saw him and screamed immediately and ran out of the apartment. The image was still there the next day, till I cleaned the mirror with Windex. Then it just disappeared. And it's never happened again since. It still gives me the chills just to think about it. It had no wings, an oversized head, big oval eyes, maybe 3 feet tall max, and a smug, self-satisfied grin that I'll remember for the rest of my life. In the late 70s, I was living in the UK. I'm American, and I was there as an exchange student. It was the winter of 1979, and we were training for a cross-country meet. I, along with a few of the other runners, woke up early to run through a park in an open field. As we were running, one of my friends abruptly stopped and started laughing. I was a bit annoyed at first with her sudden stop, but soon realized that there might actually be something wrong with her. She was laughing in a kind of hysterical way, and I just felt that something wasn't right. Then she said, "This is a place called Tingle Tingle. Now don't laugh, because if you do, the fairies will hit you in the head with an acorn." She continued to laugh. This was very unusual behavior for her. My other friends, who had also stopped, didn't laugh or smile. We were all too confused by what was happening. We could all tell that something was wrong with our laughing friend. Soon, my laughing friend stopped laughing and seemed a bit disoriented. Then, a second later, out of the clear blue sky, she got bonked in the head with an acorn. No one knew where the acorn had come from. We must have been at least 300 yards from the nearest tree. Everyone was shocked, and we tore out of there. Later on, I felt that perhaps we were being pranked. I spoke to my friend, the one who had been laughing, but she seemed genuinely rattled by the incident. I was there when she told her husband about it, and she seemed sincere. She didn't know why she suddenly started laughing, or why she said what she had said, and had no idea where the acorn had come from. This experience was a life changer and opened up a whole new world to me. What I thought were just quaint childhood stories turned out to have some truth to them. Since my return back home to the States, I've had other unusual experiences as well. But I have to be careful who I relate my experiences to, because people's reactions can be more hurtful sometimes than anything the fairies have done. I think fairies are nature spirits. They could be manifestations of group consciousness or something like that. I think when you dwell on them in thought, they are more likely to manifest. They are protectors of the earth and remind us that there's more to our plane of existence than just the physical. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all the subscribers who submitted their stories for this one. Let me know what you thought of these stories in the comments. If you have a story to share, you can check out my website at scaryfairygodmother.com. Link in the description. It has a spot where you can submit your stories, comments, questions, and suggestions. You can also sign up for my mailing list there. It's free to sign up. As always, extra special thanks goes out to all my supporters on Patreon and to anyone who joined the channel or made a one-time donation through PayPal or Ko-fi. I really appreciate you guys so much and the support you are giving this work. If you like this content and would like to support it, please check out my Patreon page and the other support options in the description below. The stories in this video came courtesy of subscribers and the Fairy Census, so thanks to everyone who submitted. The stories were edited for dramatic and narration reasons. If you would like to read the original Census stories, please find the link to the Fairy Investigation Society in the description below. They're great people over there, so highly suggest that you visit them. I want to take a moment to welcome all the new subscribers who discovered this channel just this past month. We've had a big influx of new subscribers this month. I don't know how you guys found me here in this little corner of YouTube, but you are all very welcome. We love fairy enthusiasts and fairy friends here, so I'm really glad you found us. Please leave a comment below, like, share, and subscribe if you're new. It really helps the channel when you do that. And hit the bell to receive notifications of new videos. And until next time, this has been a visit from your scary fairy godmother.